Good evening, everyone, and welcome. We're going to be talking about fear and how to overcome it so that we can feel safe. If you have any questions, please feel free to text Dr. Justine at 647-987-9355. I wanted to welcome Dr. Justine with us here this evening. She is a warrior for health and wellness here at Justine Blainey Wellness Center, our leader, and she believes that everyone deserves a healthcare team that focuses on prevention, optimal health, and open communication. Please help me welcome Dr. Justine.
Hello, everybody. This is such an important topic as all of us have different fears, anxieties, and they can hold us back from achieving all of our goals, achieving the true potential that we have in life. So, today we're going to talk about fears, but we want to know that we have amazing topics coming up. We have one about dealing with our mindset. A lot of time we know what to do, but we don't actually put it into action. We want to talk about that heart health, strengthening our bodies, and improving our sleep. We have ongoing topics to help you be better, just one step every week. Take one new thing, and at the end of the year, you have made over 50 amazing changes. So share this with others. We have an amazing topic coming up for you. This new topic comes from Daily Motivation, and we're constantly trying to provide you new information, but daily motivation is something that you too can apply for. It is free, and it is ways to stay, stress free and create positivity into your day every single day. Now, when we have fears, they can paralyze us, they can consume us, they can make us feel out of control, overwhelmed, and just like upset, not waking up with that zest and that joie de vivre every day. It can make it just a struggle to get out of bed, struggle to leave the outside world. Fears of just going outside. And with COVID, hasn't that affected so many of our loved ones? And fears can also stop us from leading towards opportunities that help us can get ahead. We might keep us from getting out, getting together with friends and family. And so we feel like we're missing out. Sometimes fears aren't as severe as feeling boxed up and leading to anxiety and depression. Sometimes it just stops us from doing our very, very best, stops us from going towards opportunities or accepting different challenges that can promote us to be better, stops us from that very thing that could improve our lives or add potential to our lives. Sometimes that is actually just a challenge we're scared of. So today we're going to talk about all different types of ways to manage fear, manage challenges, things that could just improve our day-to-day life, our overall potential to be our best and also to lead our families. So we want to talk about how to understand fear and why we're experiencing. So, anxiety and fear can go hand in hand. When we fear something, then anxiety can build up. That's going to affect our breathing. It's going to affect our skin temperature. It's going to affect our muscle tension. It's going to affect our gut health. So, anxiety and fear can affect our overall physical way we feel. Now, fear isn't useless. Sometimes it can be super useful. It can motivate us, get us to run, take action. For our ancestors, there's this amazing thing, the fight or flight helped us get away from the bear, helped us hunt for our food. Um, Other times, it's just truly an emotional response and has zero effect. There is actually no danger out there. So it can be a good thing and drive us away from true dangers. I know an example is like my son when he was little, he ran out into the parking lot and run and grab his hand to get him away from the parking lot, and yet there was actually no car coming. But I had that crazy amount of fear that maybe a car would come. And in actual reality, at that time, in that specific moment, he was completely safe. And he had looked right and left. It was an unreasonable, quick reaction for me, but also an opportunity to teach him a lesson to stay at that young age with mom, just to make sure because cars wouldn't see him because he was so short at that time. So the sole purpose of fear can be survival. It can be an opportunity to learn, or it could, we can have unrational fears that can help us make poor decisions or not take opportunities and actions to be better. So fears can be healthy. They can help us, if we can't swim, for example, to stay away from deep waters. Um, but then there are other times where it's not helping us at all. It can actually hinder us, help us make poor decisions, and they can develop into different types of phobias. Um, and it create an intense fear reaction that of an animal, an object, a thing that's not really going to help affect us. And many of us think about things like fears of space, fears of spiders, fears of public speaking, fears of snakes, and that these triggers respond create that anxiety response. We hear of people jumping on a chair because of a little spider, right? Which is an unreasonable response, seeing as how much bigger we are, and we could just stomp on that spider if we truly needed to. So there can be an overwhelming response to fears. And I'll just give you an example that's personal to me. I didn't really think I had a lot of fears. Honestly, I didn't think that this was me. I didn't think that I suffered from depression or anxiety or any of those areas. I felt that I'd overcome. However, I went on an amazing holiday to Hawaii with my family. My dad helped support us so that we had a condo to stay in. And we went to this amazing beach where we were supposed to see all these beautiful fish and snorkel. And all of my family and everywhere I could look, people could snorkel. But then when I tried to put the snorkeling gear on, all of a sudden I had anxiety. I couldn't breathe. I could not put my head in the water. I could not put my eyes and face in the water. And yet, as a young child, I snorkeled. Before I started playing hockey. I was able to enjoy snorkeling at the cottage, and then all of a sudden, as an adult, as a parent, I realized I couldn't snorkel, and I had no idea why, but I just didn't snorkel. I stayed on the on the sand and let my family go alone, and I missed out on that opportunity. And then as COVID hit and we started to put these masks on, again, I could not cover my mouth and nose, not at all. When they started with the masks, I would literally uh, fall to the ground in tears. I couldn't think, I couldn't move. I had to see the doctor because I could not function at all with the mask on due to the past history of trauma, past history of having severe asthma attacks in my teenage years. There was no way that I could cover. And I never knew that I had this challenge until I had to repetitively use the mask. And somehow these masks led to a phobia. They called it maskophobia. I didn't know I had it. Um, and my whole team could realize that I had to practice crawling on the ground at the office on the weekends in order to learn how to get over the phobia and deal with a mask and get support systems. So, and yet I know that the mask couldn't harm me when I held it in on my hand, but it led to this irrational fear. So sometimes we don't know where it's coming from, or it comes to surprise us, and we need a support system around us. And it's going to take practice to manage these types of fears and anxieties. So fear is different than anxiety. Anxiety is worrying about something that has not happened yet, whereas fear is an intense, immediate response to a potential present danger or intense, immediate response to something that is not even going to affect you. So, and that can lead towards that phobia. So, goal is to learn how to manage these coping skills, and certainly that's what I had to learn over the last couple of years. Um, Still not great at it, to be honest. And I still have to psych myself up. I still have to do breathing exercise, and a lot of these different techniques I still need to do in order to manage to put on masks. So you may too also have different types of fears. They don't always have to make sense to others. um, and others may not understand why. If they can do it, it's so easy for me, for example, to speak in public. I don't have a challenge with that, but others is a severe anxiety. Some people have anxiety of driving on the highway. I know for me, after having a severe accident and doing a 360 on the guardrail, anytime I drive on the left hand side of the highway and there's no shoulder, you just have the guardrail right there, I tense up. My hands get really stiff. If I'm riding a bike and a truck drives by, I get tense up because I remember that experience. It's almost like your cells remember it without a conscious response. And we need some of these techniques that we're going to go over to manage some of these fears. If they become worse, they can lead towards chronic disease, chronic areas that affect our digestion, our sleep, our overall health. So we do want to talk about these ways to manage these fears and manage these anxieties. So we're going to talk about um, 5 or 6 main techniques five that come from motivational health, and I'm going to add into them. So we're going to talk about breathing, visualization, examining the facts, and looking at what you can control, what you can't control, and drawing a square. So, the number one exercise is taking a deep breath. Naturally, when we breathe, that calms our nervous system down. It affects that tension that builds up. In my case, when I was starting to learn a mask, I like that. I was hyperventilating, totally out of control with tears at the very beginning, not even able to stand up. So, certainly looking at different ways to calm our breath down, to tell our brain that everything's okay, we can control the environment, and that this fear is just taking us on a wild ride. So one of the ones, just try that right now. Just a big breath in and breathing out right down to your belly. Right, I said big breath in, 10 in and 10 out, right down to our belly, because it's so easy to just talk fast, move fast, get that fast breathing, and we that just creates that cycle of more fears. So also when we change our focus and we focus on our breath, we're able to manage that. So one of the areas I needed to do was just lay on my back and just holding the thing that created fear for me and focusing on that deep breathing. Number 2 is closing our eyes and visualizing our happy place, imagining something where you feel calm and content. Maybe it's your own bed at home, you feel safe. Maybe it's on the beach. Maybe it's walking in the mountains. Engaging in as many senses as possible that makes you feel safe. Think about what the smells, the noises. So if you're wandering in the woods, you're thinking about the rustling of the leaves. If you're at home, you're thinking about the humming of your air conditioning or your furnace. You're thinking about the happy sounds of your kids laughing and joking and running around. How does it feel on your skin? The texture, the sheet's soft and you feel the pillows soft, or the texture of the wind, the texture, the feeling of the sun if you're on the beach. Does it feel warm? Does it feel cold? Does it feel inviting? Use all of your senses for visualization to help your body get to that safe place. Visualization is something that we use a lot in hockey. We would sit in the stands, and even my daughter is a figure skater. You'd sit in the bleachers and you would look at the ice and you would visualize making that perfect pass, or my daughter doing that perfect twizzle. We can use our athletic skills and our skills that we in the visualization from our sports to help us manage visualizing doing a speech, getting on stage, visualizing having that tough conversation, visualizing ourselves, being near a spider and not jumping on that chair, and visualizing looking at a snake in the water, and not jumping on a rock. So we can use our visualization skills and slowly add in the thing that causes us fear, and realize that we can manage it better, that we're still in that safe place. Number 3 is examining the facts. Our logic trumps our feelings every single time, but it takes time. So sometimes we need to hold that object. For me, holding a mask and going like this thing is not going to kill me a little bit at a time. It's maybe going to affect my health a little bit at a time, but it's not going to kill me. Looking at, holding a rubber spider, a rubber snake, holding a microphone in our hand. Um, Talking about managing a conversation, practicing doing that conversation in the mirror if it's going to be a tough conversation with your boss or with your friend or with your child or your parents, something that's going to make you really fearful. So we want to examine that our feelings are real, but we can control our thoughts and our behaviors. And if we can examine the facts. So, for example, if you're scared of heights, you can visualize standing on that mountain cliff, but you can also stand on a chair. You can learn to stand on the edge of the deck. We can look at the examining the facts. What are the odds that your knees are going to crumble if you're at the top of that height? So you can visualize being at the top of a mountain and start at smaller levels and realize that those chances of you falling down that cliff are slim to none. Um, we can realize, for example, that if I were riding a bike, I was so nervous of cars and things going by, but I can visualize and I can learn slowly to ride on the sidewalk, and then to learn to ride on roads with a proper shoulder and biking lane before getting on to some of the, say, the roads that have fewer cars and trucks, in order to slowly get used to the facts that really realistically very little is going to happen. So measuring all the good things, to let go of the fears and realize that we can use logic a little bit at a time, and trying to that exposure a little bit at a time to help us get over those fears. Number four is accepting that some things are out of our control and focusing on what we can control. There's always things that we can't control. Accept these times and divert our energy to something else. Fear can be useful. It can motivate us to action, can get ourselves, our sympathetic system ready to take action, get moving. Um, so we it can trick us at times to be immobilized. So sometimes also just adding a friend with you, a support system, um, to help us take that next action step, so that we're not trying to do things alone, and realize that sometimes things will happen that we can't control, but we're not alone in those times. Number five is this square. This is a great area and something that we can do all on our own at any place, anytime. So this is where we start with just 5 deep breaths, right? Just 5 really good deep breaths, because of that faster breathing when we're thinking about something that we're fear. So 5 good belly breaths. And then we draw a finger. You can either do it on a piece of paper or in the air. And we take a big breath and we draw the finger through 4, and then we exhale through 4 seconds, and then inhale through 4 seconds, and then exhale. And we can do that multiple times, just getting the 4 by 4. This can be done with a square, and so that you can do it sitting, you can do it at your office, you can do it standing. You can also do this walking. So you take 4 steps, breathing in, 4 more steps, breathing out, 4 more steps, breathing in, 4 more steps, breathing out. Again, you're changing your focus on your breath rather than what you fear, in order to be able to take action and manage that next fear. As you put all 5 steps together, we can manage those stresses better. Now, when you truly have fears, I do recommend counseling. I do recommend talking to a naturopath in order to look at mindset and mind body control, because this isn't something that we can always do on our own. But just as our famous baseball player said, never let the fear of striking out get in your way. So we do have fears. We can overcome those fears and phobias, but we don't need to do it alone. All right. Gain back that control. It took me almost a year and I'm still working at it. None of us are perfect. None of us may have fears we don't even realize we have, that are preventing us from taking that next goal, that next action step, getting ahead in our careers, um, being the best parent possible, the best sibling possible, the best daughter possible. So make sure you talk to a friend, make sure you talk to a professional. Know that you can get some of this control back with these 5 steps, using our breathing exercises, getting our bodies moving, realizing that there are things you can control, things you can't control. We are always here to help. As a chiropractor, what we do is help take stress away. When we're under stress, it increases our fears and our anxiety. So as you are well adjusted, we find and remove those areas of subluxation, our brain and body connects better. It improves our HPA access, improves our ability to relax, to manage those stresses. So get a checkup. Find if you have areas of subluxation, especially those areas at the top of your neck, the atlas and axis area. That atlas right near your brainstem can really affect that stress response, breathing response, blood pressure, heart rate response. So make sure you have it checked on a regular basis to make sure you're managing those stresses better, and talk to a professional, talk to a naturopath, a counselor to help you along the way. We are here to help. We have amazing talks coming up. Next one's on mindset, because sometimes we know what to do, but we just can't put those steps in place. We're going to talk about that heart health, strengthening our bodies, and improving our rest, improving our sleep. So stay tuned with us. We have a ton of information. Connect with us, share with others, do a review. We love you, and we look forward to seeing you soon.